On this week's show, we're discussing a brand new Xbox console and potential multiple handhelds. Death Stranding 2 beaches itself a release date. Pokémon Go is for sale, is being sold, and PlayStation confirm a new AAA game in development with People Can Fly. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we get together and round up all of the week's video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search for GamerGuildTV or GamerGuild Podcast and you will find us there discussing everything. Your podcast players for the week are myself, Chris, at Arcane Rogue on social media, and my man of many pixels returning once again, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello indeed, and welcome back, folks, because we do have another great show lined up for you all. But before we do get into all that, do not forget to like, subscribe, ring a ding that bell, so you are kept in the loop with all the great content we do here on the channel, like this very episode of the podcast, like our weekly live streams, our retro looks back, and all the other fun in between. We do have a merchandise store. Go check it out. Some wonderful items over there for you to go pick up and keep warm this spring, because apparently the weather can go from super hot to super cold on the flip of a coin this week.
Yeah, it really has.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. We checked out The Last of Us Part 2 as part of this week's live stream. We got another 3 hours in the bag with Abby and Lev. That's the part of the journey we're up to. And we'll talk more about that as we get into The Last of Us news and the Clickcast later in the show. But as always, we kickstart off every show with what we've been playing. And Richie, tell me about it.
Oh, which one would you like me to tell you about first? Because last week I did say I had started Indiana Jones, but hadn't really played enough yet to say much.
I'd like you to start with the left-hand, right-hand game that we played before we went live. So hold up your left hand for the viewers right now.
This is my left hand.
Right. Now, audience in the chat,
by this.
In the comments, tell Richie why he's wrong. I've said that's
it's attached to me.
Yeah, but hold up your left hand. Right. Now everyone tell him why he's wrong. And we'll move on to what you're actually playing, because your left-hand, right-hand game is really, really bad. No platinum trophy for you. So Indiana Jones, you've been chipping away.
Yes, so I've pretty much 100% of the Vatican. I think there's just a few fights of the boxing ring I need to do.
Even the Pope's not done that.
True. But
he's tried.
Pope's lazy.
He's also not very well at the moment, I think, so.
Yeah.
It's probably a good reason.
Yeah. Now I'm in Giza, and I've done all the mysteries, done a few of the side quests, doing a bit of story, then I'm going to do some more cleanup before moving on. It
feels quite weird, doesn't it, going from quite a dense linear area like the Vatican where it's all walls and rooms to just go explore an open desert area. It's polarizing for the first couple of minutes I found of like, I don't really know where to go because you can just go in any direction.
And to be honest, I think it's got a bit of a throwback in terms of the style of video game it is, having these kind of almost like these open zones where you go in, they go, okay, here's a map, it's fairly manageable. It's not small, but it's manageable. And then when you do that, you go to the next one and then to the next one, rather than forcing it to be an open world.
Yeah.
And it is kind of nice to just be going, right, when I'm going around the Vatican, it's like, right, I'm at the point of no return for this part of the story. Let's just spend some time mooching around getting all the collectibles before I move on.
Good. So you're enjoying it then?
Oh, very much so.
Fantastic. Because we do have some Indiana Jones news lined up in the news this week. We've got some interesting details. I'm guessing you've been playing something else as well, though.
Yeah, well, I've kind of shelved Avowed slightly because Indiana Jones has took my interest slightly more.
Yeah.
And then there is another game that I've been playing, which I know you've been playing as well, because we both bought it on last week's podcast.
We did. We put our money where our mouth was, and we acquired some Split Fiction.
Yeah.
I thought yours wasn't due to arrive until later in the month, or...
No, it came Wednesday.
Oh, good. Yes, we've both been playing Split Fiction. Not together with our subsequent partners. Obviously, we won't go into spoilers here, but yeah, game's been reviewed very, very well. Subsequent partners.
Suggest that we both split with each other. And
We did. We took our left hand and our right hand, and we split.
Did you get Tom or Rob in the divorce?
That's a good question. I feel like I'd take Rob just because I've known him longer. But yeah, either way, that's a whole different conversation. Split fiction. We won't go into too much spoilers, but I'm probably about, I'd say 4 or 5 hours in with my wife. Really enjoying it, having a really good laugh with it. It is just kind of non-stop action. The game doesn't really have any moments where you have any time to like kind of rest. There's some little, I guess, less intense exploration bits, but yeah, the humor, the storytelling, it does get into the game quite quick off the bat. You kind of get the premise of the game and just goes, yep, have at it. Loving the variation in mechanics, jumping around and playing as different characters with different, I guess, abilities, mission to mission. None of them really hang around or overstay their welcome. And for my wife, who's not really a gamer, we did enjoy It Takes Two. I think that kind of, the dynamic of like quite, for lack of a better term, simple platforming. You're jumping, you're grappling onto things, you're swinging. It's not overly complex. You're not talking like deep RPGs where you've got block mechanics, different stances, rolls, and dodges. It's very much you jump, swing, bounce off things. And there's some really good parts that had us like just really laughing out loud at it. And I don't know, how far would you say you and your girlfriend are?
I think probably about the same actually. Maybe 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a story beat that wouldn't be spoilers. I've done 2 main glitches.
Okay, yeah, we're probably just ahead of that, I would say.
We started the third one, and that's where we left off, just at the start of the third one.
Right. Have you used a mobile phone yet at all?
I think Nat did.
Right. Well, only one of the characters. Yes, that sounds right. That was quite a funny moment.
Yeah.
I think we're just after that bit, and we're currently in a foresty area, I would say, without giving too much away.
Right. So you're on the second world, basically.
It seems like, I think we went back between fantasy and fiction a couple of times. And,
so you're in a sci-fi world.
Yeah.
But then you've been jumping into some like side missions that are fantasy.
Yeah.
And now you're in a fantasy world. Yeah,
and boy, did we laugh at the one with the, let's say, Animal Farm, to probably describe it the best. Without giving away, Nicola had probably the funnier of the 2 abilities, and she thought it was hilarious.
Did you blow the house down?
We did, yeah. I
did that and then was quite surprised when I got a gold trophy. It's like, yes. Yeah,
there's a few trophies I think we've definitely missed, but they're not as frequent as you would think in this type of game. So there's definitely some replayability to go back. But overall thoughts from the 2 of you on the game so far?
Loving it, both of us. We are actually then ahead of you because if you're in the second world where we've just started the third.
Right. So we did. We
kind
of did
one the side portal things.
We did one really long night together, like probably about 3 hours or something, and then we did a shorter one for probably about an hour and a half or something. But really enjoying it, and the variations and such. It's well worth it. If you've got a probably wife, girlfriend, partner who you live with, definitely worth it. Even if they're not big into games, it's definitely something you can both pick up and play. And if you've got siblings or anything, it's a really fun co-op. Again, I think couch co-op works best. I know you can do online with the friend pass, but I think to get the really most out of it, you have to be sat side by side. Yeah,
ideally sat side by side, if not at least on voice chat.
Yeah, definitely. We were doing just every time we finished a mission or defeated a boss, it was high five, fist bump, well done, that good bit of banter back and forth.
And you know what? If you don't have a wife or any kids to play with, and you don't have any friends, we have a Discord server. Mm-hmm. Someone there might be willing to play with you.
Or you could steal someone.
Don't kidnap people.
Don't kidnap people, folks. It's bad.
GamerGuildTV does not endorse kidnap, even if it is for the sake of playing video games.
That's true. We'll see. In terms of other things,
I'm pretty confident in that statement.
I've been playing it. It was my daughter's second birthday this last week, so she got her first video game. We picked up Bluey the video game. It was on sale on Amazon for £12 or something, and I thought, you know what? Quickly check the Platinum Trophy. Seems quite easy to get. We'll get to that one. She loves the TV show, so it seems like it's just almost like an interactive episode where it's up to 4 player. You play one of the characters from the main family, for those who are familiar with Bluey. Any parents out there. And you kind of just move around the house that they live in, a couple of different areas and zones, and interact and do things that are reminiscent from the episodes. So it doesn't seem like there's really much game to it, but for a 2-year-old, she likes sitting with my controllers and fiddling around with the sticks and pressing buttons. So why not? She was playing a little bit of Spyro the Dragon the other week, just because it was there. We put it on, and she was just running around, running into walls.
Colourful.
Not really sure. Yeah, it's colourful, bright, and again, dragons are cute. So, well, some dragons are. The older ones are quite beastly and horrible. But yeah, she's having it. So first video game, first PlayStation game, and probably her first platinum trophy once Daddy chips away at it a little bit. So yeah, mixed bag of things been playing. I'm kind of keeping things quite low because Assassin's Creed Shadows launches this Tuesday. We should have a video up on the channel. Ubisoft have been kind of with the creators program to hopefully send us a code, I believe, so just ahead of embargo. So we might have that and some content up Tuesday, even though the game doesn't launch until Thursday, I believe. So yeah, keep it locked to the channel so you're kept in the loop with that. And that is going to be my big game. I can foresee me talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows for probably the next month or so, until some other titles drop, because we'll get into that. But Richie, we do have a busy show lined up for the folks out there with some big Xbox news, but we can't talk about it until you introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news.
The news. And as always, folks, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic members of the channel who support us that extra little bit further. From as little as 99p, you get early access to this very show. You get early access to some of our other content, like the Clickercast Season 1, which was remastered and put up for you all, and stickers and badges next to your name in the live chat. Not only that, you support a small 2/4 person team bringing you content every single week for over 5 years now, and we like to think we do a good job of it. But yeah, dirty freeloaders out there, still not your friend. Still not your friend.
I am.
Well, you got half of us. That makes something. But as I said, Richie, I saw a couple of people comment last week saying, I'm a dirty freeloader. It's like, it's good that you can admit it. It's good for you. But of course, we joke, we digress. Just any of your content consumed by you across any channels is all the support we need to keep doing this amazing hobby. Right, Richie. Big news drop. We've knew about it for some time. We've discussed it for quite some time. It's starting to get concrete now, which I guess means that the timeline is starting to ramp up for these things, and that is the news that the Xbox Handheld, which Phil Spencer did confirm a couple of months ago at the back end of last year, is accurate. It is coming. However, it may not be as it seems. That comes part of a kind of a double-barreled news that we'll be getting a handheld and then another handheld a year later, potentially, alongside the next-gen Xbox console. So it looks like they're going for a double whammy, hitting us with a handheld and a mainstay console. You've suspected for some time that the handheld may essentially phase out and replace the Series S in that lineup, where that would be your lesser hardware, and then the hardcore home device would be your kind of your big beefy dog that would do all the grunt work. And it seems to be that there's some truth in that now, because the report coming out is that the first Xbox handheld we're going to see should be revealed later this year, potentially for a 2026 launch. However, it's not going to be made by Xbox. It's going to be made by a partner, operating partner, in the form of Asus, who, of course, you will know. Those from the cloud gaming background will know, because they put out the ROG Ally not too long ago. Very successful, smaller device. Reporting from Windows Central, Jez Corden, famous for his Microsoft news and such, of course, said the handheld device could end up being around the £500 to £600 mark. It actually says dollars, but it's usually equivalent across the pond, and that could release anytime soon. He does advise to take the information with a grain of salt, as obviously things leading up to it could affect dates and prices. Big thing at the moment, I'd imagine, is Donald Trump fucking around with all the import-export taxes of the entire planet. Could have some big implications on video game hardware. But yeah, Richie, I'll hand it over to you. We've got very little details in terms of specifications and stuff, but we are familiar with the ROG Ally and a bunch of other things that have launched, especially like things like the Steam Deck. Where are you sitting on this one? Do you think it's the right move to launch with a second party device first, and then eventually go all in yourself the year after?
I don't know, to be honest.
Because you want one of these, right? You want an Xbox handheld, but do you want an official one or an unofficial one?
Well, I ideally want an official one. If they want to do a second party deal, so Asus make it, but it is fully Xbox branded, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't like that price range.
Yeah, it's a lot higher than I anticipated. But it's in line with Steam Deck, right? So
For me, that is the higher end of the SKU, but this is the problem. It is in line with Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So you might as well get a Steam Deck.
Well, so I guess
this is my point. I want something like I'm after something like the PlayStation Portal, which comes in at a significantly lower price point, but is more clear in its functionality.
Yeah, so digging deeper into the layers of this, the rumours are that there might be two SKUs of it. One that'll be somewhere in the middle price point, and one that'll be a little bit higher. Kind of make a little bit of an ongoing back and forth between all of these handhelds that are now on the market. The other piece that's been dug out is that it looks like it's going to run essentially on Windows, but it is going to have functionality for the Steam Store and GOG and a bunch of other online platforms, like potentially Epic. So essentially it will be an Xbox Steam Deck for all intents and purpose. But
aren't you just describing the ROG Ally anyway?
Yeah, but it's that Xbox brand, isn't it? This is where it's a bit odd all around, because we know we want it, but then I think Microsoft, with their Play Anywhere mantra and being on any platform and any screen, they want to, I think, embody all kinds of gaming, no matter how you play or where you play. So you can buy Xbox games on Steam, you can get them through Game Pass. And this is where I guess the state of Xbox is right now, is that they're almost so ubiquitous with being on any screen. Even if they put out their own hardware, it almost kind of just slots in with all the other third-party stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily against this, but you can buy a ROG Ally right now for £600, which is the upper end of the range that we've said for this.
Yep.
So I'm looking at it going, what's the point? Where what I want is a dedicated Xbox device. I don't want a Steam device. I want a way of playing my Xbox cloud gaming games on the move, but I don't want to pay for functionality I'm not interested in. That's where the Portal is coming very, very useful for me, because it's kind of that, but it's also priced not at £600. So I don't know. For a next generation console, if this is then dockable, this then actually does kind of make sense. Yeah. So if instead of going for the next Xbox console, I could consider that handheld.
All right, yeah. That would be probably a better deal for my kind of remit as well.
Yeah, and then it's dockable, or then you can use it as a portable thing. I could be down for basically like an Xbox Switch.
Yeah, the versatility of the Switch is what makes it so good, right? Because you've just got kind of two sides to the coin to enjoy wherever you want. But that's not the handheld that I want for this current generation. Obviously I'm interested in an Xbox handheld as well. I think the replacement for my Series S would be the next point. Do you think in some way we've almost been spoilt with the success of the Portal, and that comes in at under 200? That now anything above that price point goes like, am I really getting that much more for, like, essentially you're going to pay £300 more for better hardware, but if you game
£300 for hardware that can actually natively run the games. Yeah. The Portal is a remote player.
Yeah. But for someone who's been such a cloud advocate, does that £300 justified?
For me right now in this current console generation, no. Which is why I've never picked up a ROG Ally. Yeah. Because I'm paying for a lot of functionality that I'm not going to use. Where the Portal became very useful to me. So that's kind of what I want. I want an Xbox equivalent of the Portal. Yeah. Just a purely dedicated cloud gaming device that is an Xbox One that doesn't have any weird having to side load Windows or Xbox. Just plug and play, log into my account, there's my Game Pass list, everything that I can play on the cloud is there.
And in a way, this could feed into the rumour of there being two SKUs. Like the lesser SKU could be a bit more of a basic hardware internally, but it kind of doubles down and focuses on, actually, this is more of a cloud Xbox device. If you want native, decent quality, the more expensive model is there with, as you said, the better SSD, the better graphics card and stuff built in. But it's interesting to think that it's going to be almost like the waters being tested by Asus, and then seemingly in 2027, Xbox are going ahead with the next generation of consoles earlier than the competition. We say it earlier, but the Nintendo Switch 2 kind of skews all of the timeline of things. Earlier than we would expect traditionally. It'll be probably, 7 or so years by the time 2027 comes around, just over. So for them to do a double hit of here's our next console, and also here is a handheld, a dedicated handheld that's Xbox branded, not made by third party, second party, whatever it's referred to. What do you set on that timeline of things then? Are you happy to hold off and see what Xbox's official one looks like?
I think I'll have to see closer at the time, to be honest, because we're getting into the territory where the next Xbox might be due.
Mm-hmm.
So do I want to buy a current generation expensive handheld late in the generation, or do I wait to see what next generation's offering is?
Well, that's what they're saying. So 2027 will be a new console and a handheld at the same time, like side by side. So this is where I think the next launch of Xbox hardware is going to be a new home console to replace the X and S, and then a handheld to replace the S at the same time. So you can pick and choose your choice of playing Xbox.
I think I'd wait for that decision then.
Yeah.
Because it's only 1 year. It's only 1 year extra.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox are usually been pretty good at keeping games compatible with previous hardware.
Mm-hmm.
For at least you're going to be in that generational crossover where if there's anything like the current one, it lasted for quite a while before we started seeing games become current generation exclusive.
Yeah.
So I think it's one where I could sit and wait on to see what happens, and by that time we'll know more about what hardware, and then I can have like all the information to make the right decision. Do I go for a ROG Ally style, and ideally that is dockable, or do I go for potentially a console and a separate handheld?
Yeah, it's one of those. I'm happy to wait. It's the state of the landscape, I guess, of console gaming right now as well is quite interesting. I've listened to a couple of gaming podcasts this week, and the conversation tends to be around judging this generation of like PlayStation 5 itself has been quite flat. Xbox, although it's been better than the one generation, it doesn't feel like it's really got going yet, and then Nintendo haven't gone yet, so they're kind of like they were always on the tail end of the original Switch, which was what 7-8 year old at this point. So it almost does feel like that, and we've said many times, we did it when we ranked our favorite consoles of all time, that we said it's hard to judge the current gen because they haven't really got going yet, and if Xbox being in third place as they are, they're naturally the ones going to be pushing for the next gen to start earlier because it helps them, give them almost like a fresh slate. It does feel like talking about the next Xbox and a potential PlayStation 6, it makes you think like, I'm not ready for it at all yet. Not only financially, but also when I look at my PS5, I don't feel like I've really got those absolute bangers we got in the PS4 generation. And I feel like Xbox are only now starting to turn the corner in game releases where we're getting a quality cadence of really good titles.
I'm with you there. I'm looking at my PS5 and going, I don't feel like the hardware is holding back the games.
No,
at the moment. What I'm waiting for is the games. So I don't need 2027. I don't think I'll be buying a replacement PlayStation.
Yeah,
or potentially even a replacement Xbox. I just don't. I feel it's too early. I understand why Microsoft are doing it because it feels like this generation have been held back by the Series S in a way that PlayStation isn't.
So that was their choice.
So by bringing up the next generation earlier, they can jettison the Series S earlier.
Yeah, potentially, get away from it. But it does all lead into thinking like I don't mind it that there isn't any concrete rule that says these generations need to be in line with each other. It's just always the way it's gone. But you do have that elephant in the room of Nintendo are about to launch later on this year with their device, and we don't know how that's going to shake up the industry. We don't know what specs are going to be like, if Xbox games are going to go onto it, because I think the way they're handling PlayStation right now, I can certainly see the Switch 2 launching with some kind of Xbox first party support dropping onto it. I could see a slew of Xbox games being there day one for the Switch 2 release, and then that goes back to yours and my situation of if I'm going to buy a new Switch by the end of this year, do I really have the scope for buying another console in another year? Or is it just like one too many? I feel like we got our Xboxes a little bit delayed into the launch of this cycle by probably, 2 or so years? 2019, they came out.
A long delay.
When did we get our S's? 22?
2021?
Yeah, and that was because we got a Stadia refund, right? It wasn't necessarily
just
cash out of our pocket. But we went there day one, is what I'm saying. So chances are we might not be for this next one, and I might not be for the Switch 2 yet. Depends on what the launch lineup is and what it looks like. So it's an interesting landscape. But yeah, to hear Xbox going with a partner device, as they refer to it, it seems like they're almost like testing the water to see what the... But imagine being Asus and going like, yes, we've got Xbox exclusivity, we're going to put out Handheld, but we've only got really a 12-month window before our actual partners just shit all over us with their own device. It's almost like you're making... Yeah. You get the head start in the race, knowing fine well that Usain Bolt is behind you in second. He's about to leave the starting grid in 12 months' time. I
feel like the Asus one is going to basically be a reskin ROG Ally, maybe slightly more optimized towards Xbox Play. It is the PC equivalent. Yeah. It's not the console versions. Yeah. It doesn't matter too much with Xbox because Play Anywhere means literally you can switch between them seamlessly. So, yeah. I think it's largely going to be a Xbox branded ROG Ally. Yeah,
I think that could be a good shout. That it's price efficient.
And then this is going to be the premium tier for Handheld. I think the Xbox One will be the cheaper option.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout with a repackaged ROG Ally. And in a way, allowing partners to go early, it could give Microsoft a 12-month kind of beta period for the software. Like, see how it functions with maybe Windows and Steam and see what the sales are like, and then go, right, do we want to commit to a dedicated Xbox UI, or are we just going to stick with the ROG Ally one because it's went well, where multiple storefronts are accessible? Like, they probably haven't locked in all that finer detail or contractual stuff just yet. So, yeah, I think maybe this partner device is a one foot in the pool kind of deal. See how it goes, test it out, tweak the software behind the scenes, the layout, and then go all in with their own.
It's an expensive equivalent of Sony doing a backbone. Yeah. The backbone already existed, so they just slapped some Sony branding on and made it compatible.
Yeah, correct.
That's what I think they're doing here. So for Asus, 99% of the manufacturing is going to be almost identical.
Yeah.
So it's going to be easy for them to produce. Microsoft then don't have to worry about ramping up production for their premium handheld line, so they can focus on having the production for their next console and the entry tier handheld. Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Do let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on the Xbox Handheld. Do you want a dedicated first-party device, or are you quite happy to pick up a third-party one in the meantime while we wait for this new slew of Xbox consoles? Let us know below, and we'll bring it up next week. Moving on to the second story of the week, we got a new trailer for Death Stranding 2 on the beach from Hideo Kojima and Kojima Productions. It also came with a collector's edition and a release date of June 26th. This was part of the SXSW panel that we anticipated anyway, because if you recall, Richie, during the State of Play, they set aside any Death Stranding news and said it was going to be showing up at this event, so no surprise that we got some solid information from the event and also a release date. Powered by the Decima engine, coming June 26th, as I mentioned. Pre-orders go live probably by the time this show, it's March 17th, so I think when this show goes up. It's going to launch with a whole slew of different versions, as I mentioned, collector's edition included. But yeah, we've got some new content. We've got a new trailer. It's just as zany and wacky as all of Kojima's stuff you'd imagine. There's stuff with Priest. The babies in the game always seem to be at risk of a potential threat. And it just looks...
How expensive the collector's edition is? 250 quid.
Oh, that's the one that comes with everything.
Yeah. But
that inky statue thing's pretty sick, though. Not that I'd want it. I'm kind of past that point in my life now where I want collectible statues, but it does look cool. But yeah, we're not going to go into the detail of all the collector's editions because there's multiple ones. Deluxe edition, digital deluxe editions, which digital deluxe, I always think if you're not getting any physical out of it, like what good's another skin or the digital soundtrack, for example. You're really going to boot the digital soundtrack up and listen to it when it's probably just going to be on Spotify anywhere. But yeah, we got a date, June, Richie. So that's another PlayStation exclusive coming this summer. Where are you at with Death Stranding? It's one that I'm always like curious to go back and check out, and then at the same time, I just don't think it's such crazy Kojima stuff. It's more like I feel like I'd rather just watch all the cutscenes as like a movie.
Yeah, I think the first one was to try to sell it entirely on the fact that the game was made by Hideo Kojima.
Oh, absolutely.
And quite frankly, I thought the trailers made the game look boring. Now, there's clearly something in there because some people love the game. I just don't really see it. I've just, my interest is minimal, to be honest.
Yeah. It's sold well.
Yeah. But I don't know, I just have no interest. I remember on the release of the first Death Stranding, it felt like it was getting marketed for its release for like 2 years constantly.
Yeah.
And by the time the game came out, I was just sick of hearing about it.
Yeah, well, this one, reading direct from the PlayStation blog and the website, it says, what kind of game is Death Stranding 2 on the beach? Death Stranding 2 is an open-world action-adventure game played from a third-person perspective where the player must deliver cargo, overcome enemies, both human and otherworldly, explore a post-apocalyptic world by foot and vehicle, and piece together a complex and compelling sci-fi story. Do I need to play Death Stranding to enjoy number 2? There is no requirement to have played Death Stranding 1 prior to starting number 2. However, familiarity with the first game in its original guise or director's cut release will help players relate to the gameplay, story, and characters of the sequel. So there's the other risk I think that I'm at, where I really wouldn't want to play the second one until I've checked out the first. And that I'm like that with most games, let alone such a rich story-driven one with such deep characters that Kojima's well known for. So yeah. But we got a date for it.
I'm the same. I wouldn't touch 2 without playing 1. So.
It looks wild. Just like between all the different characters and the Alan Wake puppet and the cat with demon wings and...
One day we're going to have to jump into Death Stranding on the stream and just see what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I started... I think one of them went on PlayStation Plus for free. It might have been like the director's cut at some point. I have the PS4 version on disc. Because it was like
I find it funny how Death Stranding's got a director's cut. Hideo Kojima broke away from Konami, made his own studio, then made a director's cut of his only game to release. It's like, surely the first cut is the director's cut. You have full control.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it was more Sony slapping a title on them because we got Ghost of Tsushima. Was it director's cut for that one as well?
Possibly, yeah.
And then The Last of Us didn't. They went with remastered. So I'd be very curious to know at Sony head office what their branding is for this. Like Days Gone is Days Gone remastered. It's not director's cut because the guy's left and just hates Sony now. So it's definitely not his final edit. But yeah, I guess it just adds a bit of like gravitas to it. It's like Game of the Year edition, isn't it? It just gives it a bit of pomp and circumstance for a game that's done well. If it's got a director's cut, it must be well revered if they've gone back and give us more. Like Lord of the Rings extended editions and the Schneider cut and stuff like that. I think it's just a marketing thing more than anything. But
there's a lot of people in the comments of this PlayStation blog complaining about the collector's edition not having a physical copy of the game.
Yeah, I hate it when they do that. Why would you buy something so expensive and physical, and then the most core element of the product, the game, which all of the other collectible stuff is centered around, doesn't come with it? It's a right fuck on, especially with the ones that do. He's a steelbook with a disc casing slot, but no, we're not going to actually put the disc in, which is probably the cheapest thing in the whole set. Yeah, it's mad, and I know why some of them do it because Ubisoft used to do it, where because a lot of the collector's edition stuff is kind of just globalized, it's sold everywhere. The disc is kind of like put in last minute with a bunch of the reading material, which comes in every language. Like I think some of my Ubisoft ones came with about 4 booklets inside in French, Spanish, English, and you kind of just pick and choose the version, I guess, that's fitting for your country. Yeah. But it's a big disservice expecting someone to pay that much money and not give them the actual game. It's like, come on. If they're going to pay that much for this product, the least you can do. They're clearly some of your biggest fans, if not the biggest fans, if they're buying that much money worth. Just give them the game. Come on.
I think nowadays, the counterpoint to that is nowadays basically the disc is largely useless anyway because most of the game will still probably need to be downloaded.
True, but if you're a collector, the chances of the percentage of people buying collectors' statues and stuff and figurines.
You want that disc on your shelf.
Yeah, alongside the statue that you've just paid 200 freaking quid for. Absolutely. So, Death Stranding 2 coming this June. Philly Boots, or go play the number one now, because you've probably got about the right time frame to go deliver those mails. Speaking of delivering things, Richie, moving on to story number 3, we got a nice new story drop just before we went live, so we managed to snag this one at the time of recording on Friday night. People Can Fly, famed for Outriders. We played it here on the channel. We actually both really enjoyed it. And People Can Fly, the devs who were known in the past for support work on the Gears of War series as well, in line with Epic. And more recently, if you recall, Richie, they agreed a partnership with Microsoft to go back on Project Maverick, which turned out to be co-developing Gears of War E-Day. So they've actually since gone after Outriders back to their roots, supporting work on the upcoming Gears of War AAA game from Microsoft and Xbox. However, this week they've announced they're also into an agreement with Sony Interactive Entertainment regarding the production of a prototype of a new game, codenamed Project Delta, based on an intellectual property belonging to the Sony Interactive Entertainment company. The developer is going to cooperate on production on a work-for-hire model, meaning that People Can Fly will work as developer on behalf of Sony, the publisher, and in return receive an annual agreed amount from Sony Interactive Entertainment. Work on the game's prototype will be divided into stages. According to People Can Fly, the scope and provisions of the agreement do not differ substantially from the previous ones that they entered into on a normal type of project. So, Richie, it looks like they're doing Gears of War on one hand, and they're also going to be making something for PlayStation. It does say Sony IP. I'm torn now between whether it means an existing game IP, or because it's so heavily leaning into Sony Interactive Entertainment, is it potentially some Sony movie properties? They have obviously things like Ghostbusters and stuff in the wheelhouse as well. And initially when I read the article, my brain went to, what's available? Uncharted's available, Bloodborne's available. But then I was like, oh, hang on a minute. It does make a point. It doesn't say PlayStation Studios. It says Sony Interactive Entertainment, which I know is the umbrella company. But you know when you're like, if you're not trusting your first-party studios to it, I can't see it being a solid top-tier IP.
Well, it might not be a lack of trust. It might just be a lack of interest from a first-party studio. So something like a Killzone. Guerrilla, bit too busy doing other stuff. Don't have much interest right now.
Yeah, true. I'm trying to think of like People Can Fly with their history in Gears and subsequently Outriders. I'm thinking it's got to be a third-person kind of cover shooter. And I'm thinking, what do PlayStation have? They've got SOCOM. That was made by Ben Studios, but I guess they're now free as well because they had their project pulled off them, so you might as well give it back to the home studio. But yeah, it's a curious one. They haven't really given ideas. Project Delta just doesn't give anything away.
Uncharted is actually kind of third-person cover shooter.
But I don't feel like they wouldn't trust Uncharted with an outside party. I think Uncharted has to stay in-house.
True, yeah.
And again, I think if you've got Bend and Bluepoint available, you just give it to them. We've said many times in the show, both Bluepoint did the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection,
that makes sense,
and Bend did Uncharted Golden Abyss for the Vita. So you've got two studios that are currently free, recently just stripped of their projects. You would give it to either of them before even thinking about going outside of your own four walls for it. But I'm like, People Can Fly. Like, they're a good studio. They've made good games. They did get a little bit shafted on Outriders, if you remember, where Square Enix wouldn't give them the cash.
Yeah.
And they had this whole we haven't even broke even yet, 3 years after launch. But we really enjoyed it. So I think they've got the chops to make something good. This is why I think it may be PlayStation or Sony, in fact, looking in and going right, what IP can we get off the ground with this cross multimedia pollination? The Last of Us has seen huge success. The Uncharted movie was good. Mario, Sonic, everything's firing on all cylinders right now. We've got a Minecraft movie coming out. I can see this PlayStation / Sony digging into their archives and going, right, what IP do we have? And now I'm saying it out loud. Killzone, you said is first person. Resistance, they're both first person. I read an article earlier this week about Sony potentially looking to reboot the Starship Troopers franchise. And we know Helldivers was received very, very well, but that's not solely owned by Sony. It's Arrowhead as well. People Can Fly, they could probably pull it together a good, like Outriders with a skin of Starship Troopers, so instead of shooting other human type creatures, you're shooting giant bugs instead. I could see that being a thing, but that's just me thinking off the top of my head of what IP Sony Movies has. I don't think Ghostbusters is really in their wheelhouse now. It's not, I think, popular as it once. Well, it's definitely not as popular as it once was.
I'm looking at a list of closed first-party studios and see what
IP's kicking around the bucket.
Yeah. So you got like Japan studios like Ape Escape, Loco Roco, which is clearly not the direction I'd expect them to go.
No.
We've mentioned Bloodborne. There's a lot of stuff I just don't even recognise in this list.
What else does Sony have? Bad Boys.
You're going the movie route.
Yeah. They did have Bond. Obviously, that's now Amazon. Could they do a James Bond game, maybe in partnership with Amazon and Sony?
I don't know. I think Amazon trying to get involved in game publishing might be one of the reasons why they bought Bond.
Yeah. I mean, we also have the Project 007 coming from IO Interactive. That must be close to getting a reveal, like a big reveal of some sort. But yeah, they don't really have that much, I think, they don't really have that much quality, to be fair. The Jumanji movie, Bullet Train, there's nothing really, Zombieland, there's nothing really that's like, whoa, that is like solid video game adaptation stuff. So yeah, it might just be back to more PlayStation IP. I mean, I would be more than happy to see People Can Fly have a crack at Killzone or Resistance. Infamous, that's third person. It's been a while.
If they're trying to expand on what they can do as a studio away from shooters.
Yeah, but this is the problem, though. I think if they went back to something like Infamous, I don't think People Can Fly, with their track record, could put out a game that would look better quality than Sucker Punch did in 2015-14. I just don't. You know, like when we've gone back to older games and think, damn, they look so good still.
Yeah.
I don't think Outriders even comes close to something of like the Order 8 and A6's quality. So my worry would be Sony would go, we can't give them an IP that they're going to make a worse looking game of, because it'll be just dragged through the coals.
Yeah, it ends up in a Prince of Persia situation.
Yeah, so it needs to be either a brand new, like something that's not a video game, or something that's so old that it can be compared apples to oranges. Yeah, I'm scratching my head.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, until again, this news literally just dropped tonight via Gamatsu, so there'll probably be more come out of it. I'm sure a couple of insiders over the next couple of days will probably have like inside scoops of, we've heard they're working on this. But until then, let us know in the comments, folks, down below. We love some engagement in the comments. Your thoughts are as good as ours on this one. What IP do you think People Can Fly could be working on? Let us know.
MLB The Show.
Yes, the game.
Yeah.
But speaking of working on games, Richie, we got some news this week, and it's kind of almost like no surprise. The Lego games are starting to come in-house. We just mentioned there about Sony going out of house to bring games. We covered 2 weeks ago WB Games and the entire shit show that's going on over there, and what closing studios. We lost Monolith. We know TT Games have traditionally worked on Lego games for like the last 20 years with mixed responses. Their last one being the Skywalker Saga collection. Sold incredibly well. We know they're working on a game behind the scenes now, which is yet to be revealed. Rumoured to be a Harry Potter collection. Which, again, no surprise. Hogwarts Legacy is huge. Harry Potter continues to be huge. Probably a collection of all previous games, but refreshed, similar to the Skywalker Saga. And in and amongst all that, though, Lego are now starting to look inside. We had Lego Horizon, so that we know they're willing to now work with other studios that aren't TT Games to put out Lego. We've seen Lego Fortnite, which is now dubbed Lego Fortnite Odyssey. It's got like a little bit of a rebrand since we last played it on the channel, Richie. But it looks like they're bringing things in-house. So after TT pumped them out, it looks like that era of Lego games is largely over. Lego are going to go in-house with their own studio. So do you think this means we see more Lego games? Or, I mean, they don't have any studios. So the article doesn't really explain whether they're looking... It says they're looking at investments for the future. But they don't really state whether that means starting their own studios or maybe doing a Marvel route and just outsourcing their IP to other studios. But Lego really don't own their IP. They're kind of like they rely on other companies giving them IP.
Yeah, true. I think part of the white want to get away from is they've been quite close to WB, I'd say, in recent times.
100%.
Which is a problem, I think, because WB seem to be just all over the place at best at the moment. And that's been the case now for probably about the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They go up for sale, they're not for sale, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they keep changing their mind. They're shutting down studios after games didn't perform when the studios didn't want to make the game, were forced into making that game. It's just been an absolute mess.
Yeah.
I think Lego might be looking at it, and yes, while they don't necessarily own their IP, they tend to partner up with other IP. By moving in-house, it gives them a bit more control to protect the Lego part of their branding. So they can still do partner stuff.
Yeah.
So I think like Lego Horizon, you could still see like other things like Lego Horizon.
We got Lego 2K as well, right? The racing one.
Yeah, they might just be wanting to bring as much back in-house as they possibly can.
Yeah.
Just to protect themselves.
Yeah, in the Eurogamer article, it's the Lego head of Lego, Niels Christensen, basically says that we want to focus on video game experiences created by our own teams following years of partnerships with outside companies. Now, my worry there would be Lego they don't have an in-house studio. If they were to maybe acquire TT Games from Warner Brother, who are clearly happy to sell and shut down studios, I could see that as a really good starting point. Lego Horizon seemingly didn't sell well. I don't know anyone who really spoke about Lego 2K Racing. I know the Lego Fortnite games do really, really well, but that's just kind of because it's part of this amorphous blob that is Fortnite, and I think anything attached to it does well regardless, just because of the pure fan base. I don't really know what I'd like to see, because I'm a big fan of the TT Lego games, and they've got a formula that kind of does work, and it doesn't need tweaking that much.
And if anything, the more recent tweaks, I know my girlfriend, big Lego game fan, and some of the more recent games that TT Games have made, putting Lego Horizon aside because that was a different studio, they messed with the formula, and she said it made them worse.
I'd agree. I think the pinnacle for me was the Jurassic World games were brilliant. Like again, some of this is, I guess, reliant on the IP itself. If the franchise lends itself to an open world video game like Jurassic World did, it had multiple islands, multiple characters, multiple dinosaurs, that works. The Avengers games were kind of peak as well. Lego Avengers did, and then they did the second game, and it was Lego's Marvel Superheroes. Yeah, the Batman DC ones kind of lost their way a little bit. We got like 3 Lego Batman and then DC villains, and it was like, you're doing too much now. The Lord of the Rings was a disappointment. The Hobbit was an utter shit show letdown because, again, going to call you out, TT Games didn't finish it. We're missing a third movie, which is why my heart is in, please give us a Middle-earth collection in the style of Skywalker Saga and whatever this Harry Potter is. But yeah, I had Lego Dimensions, the Toys to World game, where you got Lego figures, you got a portal pod, you put them on, and you went in, and they had like a Lord of the Rings level, they had a Back to the Future level, they had an E.T. level, they had Gremlins, it had like every IP from my childhood, and I loved it because I got the Lego figures without having to buy the full set. So I got like a Mogwai Gremlin figure without having to buy like an 80-90 pound Gremlins set that I didn't really want anything other than the figurine. I've got my Marty McFly on his hoverboard without having to buy an entire an entire Pine shopping centre to go with it. So yeah, it was Lego Dimensions was great for that, definitely. But I think your girlfriend said it right. I think they've went downhill. I did enjoy Lego Horizons, but
me too.
It was very simple.
It wasn't a proper Lego game. You weren't destroying environments. A lot of the things that you expect from a Lego game weren't there.
Yeah.
And I think some of the there was like 4 main biomes, and some of the areas were just reused to death. I enjoyed it to the point where actually I technically kind of got the platinum twice, because I got the platinum playing with my girlfriend and then got it on my own following that. It
was a bit of a grind at the end as well.
Yeah, but what I figured, this, if you're playing Lego Horizon, this is a trick for you. Turn on the second controller and just forget about it. Double XP.
Top tip.
I played through it. I played through on my own with a second player, and just an extra controller sat next to me.
crafty.
Because it levels up both characters at the same time. But if there's only one,
yeah,
you only get the same amount of experience per character.
Double bricks. So I guess we'll know more on the Lego games in the future. I'm curious to see what the next TT game is. I hope it's not the end for them because it's another British studio like Monolith. So I hate to see another place shut down.
Lego might be building their own studios, but there might be a lot of people who've worked at things like TT Games jump ship.
Mm-hmm.
So you might get a spiritual successor to TT Games in-house at Lego.
Yeah.
Which could actually make it stronger.
But yeah, it's certainly interesting because if they don't have the studios and they don't have their IP, as good as Lego is, you almost wonder, like, well, what do you actually have? Because if you don't have, like, they don't own Marvel, they don't own Batman, they don't own Lord of the Rings, there's nothing they have. They just have, like, Lego City Undercover and Bionicle. Lego. But they are Lego. They do have a lot of pull. Yeah, no, but no one's really playing the Jago game, are they?
They are, yeah, true. But they are Lego, and everyone is interested in partnering up with them.
That's true. Nobody hates Lego.
It prints money.
Mm-hmm. Little brick money. And for any Americans listening out there, it's Lego, not Legos.
Yeah.
Just want to get it out there. Legolas. Legolas. Moving on, you and Tom covered this a couple of weeks back, but Pokemon Go developer Niantic has confirmed that they are selling their gaming division to Scopely, which is part of the Saudi-backed PIF fund. They previously picked up Monopoly Go. I don't know if you knew that. So that like their big moneymaker for Scopely is Monopoly Go at the moment. Niantic has confirmed that they're going to sell out for $3.5 billion. This was reported last month, but it's kind of been locked in now. The sale includes Niantic's entire third-party game business, which includes Monster Hunter Now and Pikmin Bloom. So they've got a couple of games. If you remember, they've actually had in the past, they had the Jurassic World... what was it called? They had a Jurassic World game. They had a Ghostbusters game. They had a Harry Potter game. Wizards Unite or something like that it was called. They basically tried to recreate the Pokemon Go formula 10 times over with every IP.
And it just didn't.
And Pokemon Go is the only real one that stuck. I think Monster Hunter Now is quite revered, all things said and done. But Pokemon Go, by far the biggest in terms of longevity and scale. It's passed over 100 million players now. It was definitely a global movement. But Scopely and the Saudi PIF fund seemingly getting into gaming. $3.5 billion is almost as much as Disney paid for Star Wars, to give you a concept of how much money that is and what you could get for that, just to acquire it. Niantic did go on to say that the IP and stuff that they work now, they're going to spin out a fresh company off the back of this, using the cash injection from the sale to grow the company and naturally evolve it into two complementary paths, one focused on creating games and bringing them to the world, and others dedicated on advancing augmented reality, AI, and geospatial technology, whatever the hell that means. But yeah, Niantic just selling up. There's a lot of fanfare out there or fervour talking about things like Pokemon Go is going to go downhill now. They're worried it's going to become massively microtransactions, similar to Monopoly Go is. Obviously, there's no necessary changes right now. The teams are seemingly going to stay the same, bar probably a few leadership who get shifted around. But yeah, it's one of them, we don't really get into the politics of it all, but the Saudi PIF fund, obviously digging into pretty much every arm of Western society now. We know firsthand about it with football, and now they're doing it with gaming. The company Scopely was renamed, I think about half a year or so ago, to almost rebrand it and make it look more Western. Like Scopely just sounds like, it does sound just like a Western studio conglomerate or something to do with tech, like a startup company. However, they've just dropped $3.5 billion. You play Pokemon Go, Richie?
Not much.
No, you have played Pokemon Go, sorry, in the past. Where do we sit on like its valuation? 3.5 billion. What do you think on Scopely getting into the world this way? And if you were a fan of the game still, would you be worried about its future? Pokemon and Nintendo usually have such a good grasp on their own property. It seems quite odd to see it be sold. Not that it's directly Nintendo, but it's proxy to them.
Yeah, I think the Pokemon brand is so curated by Nintendo. I think that they wouldn't be able to make any significant changes to the formula without Nintendo giving the approval. However, Nintendo are a weird company and do love money.
Yep, don't we all?
So it's hard to know. I would be worried if I was a massive Pokemon Go fan, especially with Monopoly Go being what it is.
Yeah.
But Monopoly Go apparently generated $1 billion in revenue.
Yeah, it's a different type of game. And it's definitely more money focused. Monopoly, literally, the game is spending money, so I can see how that does. To give you a quote, just to add to your conversation, as part of the purchase, they put out a quote saying, "We have every belief that Pokemon Go will further flourish as part of Scopely, not only into its second decade, but for many more years to come, under the mission of discovering Pokemon in the real world and inspiring people to explore together. Our partnership, along with our decade-long partnership with the Pokemon Company, means we can maintain this long-term focus. Scopely believes in our mission of ongoing goal to create the best Pokemon Go experience possible. Their focus will be to support our team, providing resources to continue delivering the gameplay you all know and love." So I guess if you're a fan of the game, if anything, this just drives home the message that it ain't going anywhere, which is a good thing. Like, if it's worth $3.5 billion, that means, like, hey, you're going to get another decade out of your favourite game of all time. But yeah, what would you want to see come to Pokemon Go? Like, is a lapsed Pokemon Go player anything can get you back in? Or like,
I wouldn't even say I was a lapsed player. I was never really into it.
I remember being on holiday with you and you were going out for beach walks with some of our friends, collecting sand shrews and stuff.
Yes, there was about a 1 week period in my life when I was on holiday with you where everyone around me was playing. But that is literally about the only time I played.
Wow. I thought you'd be more into it. You still playing trading card game?
Yeah.
So that's more.
Well, I think it was with Pokemon Go. It was this weird game where it's like you have to go outside to play a game, and if you didn't happen to live in the right area, it was crap. Yeah, and it's just like I guess you didn't
move much, did I? I mean, for my job at the time when it launched, I was like traveling every day, like to Newcastle and stuff, and I was commuting, so I was out in the real world. Where I think, your 5-minute, 10-minute trip to the office and back, you're not really going to pass many Pokestops, or
so I wasn't playing passively. So it'd have to be an active choice. And I remember thinking, it's like, I could go outside in the rain and get ran over by a bus while trying to catch a Pidgey. Or I could sit here and play an actual Pokemon game.
Fair enough.
I was just never really into it.
I do know your girlfriend was, though.
I believe so, yes.
So
she's a big Pokemon fan.
Gets them out and about. I think, again...
she has never played a mainline game.
Wow. That's backwards.
I know, I need to teach her.
Yeah, that needs got to catch them all the games. But yeah, Pokemon Go lives on. The Scopely integration into our society continues to happen. Who knows? As long as funds go towards Newcastle, I'll be okay with it.
Interestingly, I'm looking at it. So Scopely is a subsidiary of Savvy Games, which is owned by the Public Investment Fund.
Yeah.
Nintendo own a 7.5% stake in Savvy Games.
So
EA, Take-Two, Embracer, Nexon, and Capcom all have stakes.
These conglomerate companies just have tendrils and everything, don't they?
Yeah,
they really do. But moving on to some non-tendrily based news, Richie, we got this month's PlayStation Plus games for the premium catalogue, which includes some decent ones and some not so decent ones. These are the games that you can play as part of PlayStation Plus Premium and PlayStation Plus Extra. Lining things up, we have UFC 5 on PlayStation 5 coming. That's the most recent entry in the MMA fighting series. We also have the critically revered Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which was the most recently mythologically Persia-inspired side-scroller, very Metroidvania style. Came out, January last year? So it's just over a year old, just over.
Yeah.
Captain Tsubasa: Rise of New Champions on PlayStation 4, which is a soccer game. You've got Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation Code Fairy. I'm already going to say. Arcade Paradise, shout out to the old Stadia Pro game. Bang On Balls Chronicles, You Suck at Parking, Siberia: The World Before, Arcade Paradise, but VR this time. which is kind of all you really need to know about that game list. And then rounding things out, we've got a collection of Armored Core classic games. This is kicking things off with Armored Core from 1997, the original PlayStation Classic, followed by Armored Core Project Phantasma, which was the 1998 release. And then we also had Armored Core Master of Arena, which was the 1999 release of the same franchise running. Of course, we recently had an Armored Core game released last year, I believe. It's the From Soft.
Rubicon.
Yes, oh, what a name. So Armored Core is back. It's one of those PlayStation repackaged ones. It'll come with all the rewind features and no doubt some trophies as well for those Armored Core fans out there. All in all, though, Richie, Prince of Persia, great. UFC, great. If you like UFC, you probably already bought it. Everything else outside of Armored Core, pretty much a shit show for this week.
Yeah.
This month, sorry.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, there might be some stuff that you're interested in, but you kind of know if you're interested in.
Yeah.
If you're interested in Bang on Balls Chronicles, let us know in the comments.
Yeah. I want to point out as well, Mobile Suite Gundam Battle Operation Code Fairy is not part of the Gundam Warriors series. It just took the name. Bang on Balls Chronicles and You Suck at Parking. Like, they just scream mobile, clicky games rather than shovelware. That's the word for it. Shovelware. Arcade Paradise is decent, but yeah, for me, it's Prince of Persia.
Yeah, 100% Prince of Persia for me.
That's about it. In some of the Game of the Year conversations,
game on that list I'm interested in playing.
Yeah,
maybe one of the Armored Core games might be fun, but
I think the old one, I'd probably start at Fires of Rubicon now, if that's the case. Yeah. Although I don't know if that sold that well, you know. I know it was just FromSoft kind of flexing. Now they had Elden Ring out the door. They've got Sekiro waiting in the wings. They've got Bloodborne if they ever want to go back to it. They're pretty much set for, I think we said when Fires of Rubicon came out, they're pretty much set for making millions for decades to come with that roster of IP. But they were able to go back to Armored Core. And I think if you're a fan of the series, go back to its roots and experience that. Speaking of going back to its roots, we got news that Space Marine 3 is actively in development as they continue to work on Space Marine 2's online support. Saber Interactive confirmed that it's officially been announced, but that's all we know so far. It's in the early days for Space Marine 3. Saber confirmed and said that they're now only starting development. However, the studio does promise the next installment of the third-person sci-fi shooter series will be an even more immersive experience and introduce larger-scale battles that are even more spectacular than ever seen before. Safe to assume we're going to take control of the Ultramarines captain Demetrian Titus as he pops up in Space Marines 3's single piece of promotional art that they put out with the news. Players can look forward to an immersive campaign, a multiplayer mode, and innovations that will redefine the standards of a third-person action-adventure games. We all take our learnings and apply them to make an even bigger, more spectacular game for the third instalment. No surprise with this one, Richie.
Nope,
for me.
No surprise at all. The only surprise is how early they've announced it.
Yeah. Space Marine 2, one of my most enjoyable games of last year. Fully got me into Warhammer, back into it for a moment. Really enjoyed the campaign, dabbled a little bit in the multiplayer, but as our listeners know, multiplayer is not really my bag anymore. The kind of horde mode that they had in it is just, super fun. But Space Marine 1, full playthrough up on the channel right now. Space Marine 2, highly recommend going to check out. You can pick it up for a really good price now. And it strikes me as the turnaround for this one won't be too long either, because they kind of have the engine, the world, the assets. This strikes me as something that we'll probably see in about 3 years.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, which is great, because I think that's the cadence for like these AA style games, is that if they keep it in the same wheelhouse as the last one, is the stories, I don't want to say simple, but it was very much a game of like, here's your mission, get from A to Z. Kill loads of shit on the way. Mission 2, here's the plot, get from A to Z, kill loads of shit on the way, rinse and repeat, and then there's a big boss fight at the end. But it's in this gorgeously realised world with tons of lore, beautiful character assets and animations, phenomenally fun combat, and then it's also got this bigger world that attached to it that if you want to dig into it, you can go explore for the rest of your life, probably Warhammer lore.
Yeah.
And
I feel like AA's on a bit of a resurgence, just because as people having less time on their hands, getting a bit burnt out by like massive
100-hour games.
Yeah. Well, you look at, I think the best example for me is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a 100+ hour game, and then if you want the platinum, you have to play the whole game again on a harder difficulty. this is where I think people you get a bit burnt out. It took me probably over 200 hours to platinum Metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So having games like Space Marine that are a bit more time friendly, it's nice. I definitely feel like there's a bit more buzz around them.
Yeah.
As the quality of them is no longer lagging that far behind.
Yeah.
They're definitely at good enough.
Yeah. And obviously the Unreal engine as well. Unreal 5 is clearly just like now developers are really starting to get their head around the tools. We're seeing some stunningly beautiful games come out from smaller studios that look on par with some AAA expensive ones. If I was Saber and then by proxy the Embracer Group, we know Embracer have 100 studios or something. In the lead up to 3, I would be really keen on getting one of their smaller studios to work on a remaster of 1, because that's currently only available on PS3, Steam, and backwards compat with Xbox, so there isn't a modern version. I would get one of your smaller studios, graft away for two and a bit, 3 years on a Space Marine 1 remaster, use the framework of the first game, polish it up, use Unreal Engine to overlay it, get that out maybe half a year ahead of Space Marine 3, and then come all out with a 1, 2, 3 punch of here's the Space Marine trilogy. That will print them money, I think.
Yeah, I'd do the same.
Rather than doing another SpongeBob game. Come on. You could do something good.
You have to do SpongeBob.
They're not bad, to be fair. I don't know why I picked SpongeBob. Easy target.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Mind you're the one who's just bought Bluey.
Hey, don't diss Bluey. You're coming to my daughter's birthday party this weekend, and you're going to see a lot more Bluey than you ever hoped for. I'll tell you that much. It's themed all over the place. But I digress. Speaking of hitting targets, our next story of the week is the whipping Indiana Jones. The Great Circle has been ESRB rated for PlayStation 5, which suspects a release date is imminent. So imminent, Richie, that all the leaks point to a release date. And we have that release date from the reliable leaker, Bill Coon. I think it's Bill. Is it Billy B. Coon or Bill Coon?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Not too sure. Either way, he suspects it's coming April 17th, so just over a month away, according to our reliable leaker. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, of course, critically revered, available now on Xbox Game Pass. Stunning performance from Troy Baker. Richie, you're currently playing it. Bill Coon claims the Great Circle standard and premium editions will be available as a physical release as well, and the price is reportedly going to match the Xbox equivalent, which basically means $70 for the standard one, and then upwards to the collector's edition for £99 if you want that one. I think the collector's edition, if I recall, did come with some kind of I think it came with a globe, off the top of my head, an actual with the Great Circle drew on the globe, and I think it opened up and you could put the game inside it like a decanter, which does look cool as shit. If I was ever going to get a collector's edition, having a globe, I own a globe already. If I didn't have one, having an Indiana Jones one, and then also knowing to myself that it's also video game related, and none of my family who come around and visit would, they'd just be like, oh, he's got a globe. But yeah. You're currently playing Indiana Jones. I loved Indiana Jones last year, and the reason I didn't fully 100% it was because I was holding out for replaying it again on PlayStation and getting that dirty platinum trophy. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I think it's because I'm such an Indiana Jones fan. I want to almost give it its merit, but I'm also a big PlayStation fan. There's something in my DNA which is I thoroughly enjoyed Indiana Jones because it's so close to my heart in terms of Uncharted as well. I thought I'm almost tested it out on Xbox, and then I want to buy it and get the platinum.
Do you wait for the collector's edition and get that globe, the steel book?
No, I don't. I don't have the funds right now for that. I also already have a globe, as I said, but I probably will be buying it to play and intend to get the platinum trophy on it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I guess for Xbox, this is where their double release window works, right? I played it first time around. They got my engagement. They got my Game Pass money. And then 6 months later, they're now getting another £70 out of me on top of the Game Pass model to play it all over again on PlayStation. No surprise this one's getting a physical release. We reported on the show a couple of weeks ago, Forza isn't getting a physical release. We don't suspect other games will either. Things like, why can't I think? Sea of Thieves and Pentiment didn't. video listeners, the globe's at the end of the trailer. There it was.
Yeah.
And I think this one is getting a physical release because of the IP. I think Disney probably have something to say in the contract of saying, yeah, if you're releasing this on other platforms, it has to match Xbox
it's
release
the IP,
too.
and the existence of a collector's edition is probably part of it.
That's true.
Which, to be fair, they could have just went, we're not doing the collector's edition for PlayStation. If you want it, you have to come over Xbox.
Well, the collector's edition, does it come with a disc, Richie? Because if it's just the steelbook but no disc, then you could just go whack a PlayStation 5 disc in the box and it won't make any difference.
I have no idea.
April 17th, not too far away, which means we're probably going to get an announcement, I'd say within the week or two. I wouldn't be surprised. You know what, sod's law, this episode goes live on Monday. It's already out, probably. Monday. It's going to be Saturday or something on Monday morning that the trailer drops and it's coming to PS5.
Should we film a little segment just in case we need to edit it?
No.
It's out now.
I'm not editing it twice. Just now. Breaking news. All things said and done, though, it's good to see it on other platforms. I think it saw over 4 million players across PC and Xbox, so a huge game. Really glad it's done well. Won loads of Game of the Year nominations, and definitely check it out. Whether you're an Indiana Jones fan or just an adventure game fan, go check it out. Moving on, though, one of the things I checked out this week was the Silent Hill F trailer. We got a random stealth drop on Wednesday, I believe it was. Konami's been quite quiet on Silent Hill F for quite a while. We got that, if you remember, back in 2022, we got that kind of like quadruple release of Bloober Team were doing Silent Hill 2 Remake, and then we had Silent Hill F, and then we had a new movie announcement, I think it was, and then we also had, there was a fourth one. What can I remember the fourth one? F, Silent Hill 2. What was the fourth one? My brain can't think. There was four things. Was it
the short message? It was a freebie.
Townfall, something fall. Can't remember. Either way, we got a trailer this week, which essentially shows off something new and different for the series that's coming out. I think off the back of Silent Hill 2 doing really, really well, the kind of interest in this franchise has now picked up massively. So according to this one, the creature and character design by Kira and the script is from someone you've worked with before in previous Silent Hill games. Silent Hill F is set in the 1960s. Its events unfolding in the rural town of Ebisogawa, based on Kanayama, Gero, in the Gifu prefecture. No idea what any of that means. My geography for Japan is terrible. Here we meet our protagonist, Shimizu Hinako, an ordinary teenager who suddenly finds her home shrouded in fog, that pesky fog again, and changed in horrific ways. As Silent Hill F plays out, she'll explore a town she's no longer recognises, solving puzzles, fighting strange enemies, and eventually having to make a beautifully yet terrifying decision that lies at the heart of the game. This looks good, Richie. It's actually got, I mean, it's always going to, but it's got such Resident Evil Village vibes, but with a Japanese skin over it almost.
Yeah, I'm getting that a bit. Like Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village, but setting it in instead of like with a bunch of hillbillies, setting it in like a Japanese town.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally the franchise has been in the town of Silent Hill.
Yeah,
like, so it's interesting that they're actually, I think it's so different from what players of the franchise have been expecting. I think it creates an interesting, especially with like the mythology of like kind of Japanese culture and stuff with the Oni and the different creatures and dragons and stuff. It could lead into a really creepy horror, and we saw a little bit of it in Ghostwire Tokyo. Obviously, totally different type of game, but in terms of like the horror they can lean into, there's some really interesting things there. And yeah, I think shifting away from small town in America could make for some really interesting tropes. But yeah, no date on it though, unfortunately. You'd think if they were going to put out a trailer that'd actually give us a date. Do you think you see it 2025, or do you think this is maybe early 2026 now?
I think it's 2026 at the earliest. If it's 2025, they'd at least give you winter 2025 or something.
You'd think, yeah. I mean, it was revealed back in 2022, so...
Yeah. Oh, it says wish list now. But the complete lack of date suggests not this yet.
They're not confident just yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can see something maybe at Tokyo Game Show or something, maybe back end of the summer.
Yeah, maybe. Or I could even see Game Awards. getting a release date.
Yeah.
It feels like that kind of release.
Yeah, indeed. But we'll wash that story aside in line up our next one, which is the reveal of PowerWash Simulator 2 has just been announced. Future Labs has just confirmed this week that they're going to release a next entry in the series for PowerWash Simulator. The relaxing cleaning simulator is going to get a full-blown sequel later on this year, some point in 2025. Once again, they've not confirmed anymore. British Studio have confirmed that it's going to come with several major improvements for this iteration, including up to 4-player online co-op with shared progression, as well as 2-player local split-screen play, which I think is quite a nice little addition. The game is going to feature a central home-based hub for the PowerWash business, which you can customize with various furnishings and show off collectible rewards. The new campaign and the new game is going to feature a full new campaign, picking up where the original wacky ending left off. No spoilers here. That means we're going to go back to the filthy town of Muckingham, and is surrounded by Caldera County for more filth-ridden jobs. These include a parade float, tram, teapot, etc., etc. No plans for a VR version just yet, but stick more on that. Future Lab says more than 70 million players have played the original game and experienced its relaxing gameplay and a dopamine-inducing pings when sections of the game are complete. We can't wait for more, reads Eurogamer. I'm surprised this is getting a sequel so much. It's one of those titles I don't think needs one. They've only just confirmed, or they've only just about to release the Wallace and Gromit DLC. And I think this is a play by the devs of almost like the game's been so resoundingly successful. They've made so many great partnerships. We had Lara Croft Manor. We've had, as I said, Wallace and Gromit. I think they've had about 5 or 6 huge IP drop into this franchise.
Final Fantasy VII.
They did. So I think this is more of while the game's hot, let's whack a 2 on it and get essentially the same game out again. Whereas they could have just built on the platform of number 1. And I think going into a sequel with this hub world, you can see the DLC having just spokes off of this hub world already.
I think they've probably feel maybe a bit constrained by the scope of 1, by expanding the scope, giving the hub world, building in multiplayer into the game, gives them so much more scope to do stuff going forward. So I think 2 will become a true platform where 1 unintentionally became 1.
Yeah, I think 2, with that hub that they describe, it's pretty much setting up for infinite DLC, right?
Yeah.
If they're smart, I think they should bring over the prior DLC somewhere from the first one. So you've got that kind of brand recognition of there's Croft Manor, there's Wallace and Gromit, there's Final Fantasy.
It depends
like legacy content. Absolutely.
It'd be cool if you could just go like in the hub world and go, you can just go play 1 inside of 2, the whole of 1.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame they went with 2 and they didn't come up with like a more ambiguous name for just like
Super
the world.
PowerWash Simulator.
Yeah. But then that could be just confused as like a deluxe edition. So I see why they've done it. Numbered sequels always do well. Final few news stories of the week just to round out the show, Richie. We've got Rainbow Six Siege is coming up to its 10th year, and to celebrate the 10th anniversary, or season 10, however they date it, the Ubisoft have confirmed that the changes are going to leave the shooter evergreen as part of its update, dubbing the game its most transformative year yet. Set to land on June the 10th, the update will include headlines of Dual Front, a fresh 6v6 mode, an area of controlled gameplay set in a new map called District. When it comes out, the game is also essentially going to go free to play with access to all the aforementioned packs, including unranked and quick play modes, and the ability to earn up to 26 operators through progress alone, says Ubisoft. The game's ranked mode and Siege Cup are going to give access to more operators, and then they're going to be part of the game's premium editions, which would be the paid one. So it sounds like the base version is going to go free to play, with the option to upgrade and buy characters and stuff outside of that. Shout out to Rainbow Six Siege. We've always enjoyed it. We've played it on the channel. For those long fans of the channel, remember we kicked the Google Stadia team's ass up and down the town in Rainbow Six Siege. Absolutely destroyed them in a ranked match. But Rainbow Six Siege 10 is here. One of Ubisoft's few success stories in the last couple of years. Just keeps ticking away. It's one of those games that's just going to be a staple of gaming, I feel like, forever now. Like Counter-Strike and stuff. It's just there.
It's because it's a first-person shooter that has a unique feel. You know, all the stuff that we found weird in modern Call of Duty, like the ridiculous skins and stuff like that, doesn't exist in Siege. It is a very, very grounded tactical shooter, and has never shied away from being that. So I think that's why it's found its like user base.
Yeah, indeed.
By being unique.
Certainly has. And then rounding out the show, we've got just a couple of quick ones. I saw this today actually and thought, what on earth is the world coming to? But did you know you could now order games from CEX?
I saw this today myself and was like,
it's so for those in the UK, it's probably got different names around the planet, but yeah, Just Eat. Yeah, I think it's got different names in different countries, but I think Just Eat's the UK, maybe European equivalent. Uber Eats has probably got one. Deliveroo, you get the gist of what it does. They usually bring in McDonald's or Burger King or KFC right to your door. They've partnered with gaming specialist, or second-hand gaming specialist, we should say, CEX in the UK, also referred to as Sex. The UK high street chain is been added to the non-edible option on Just Eat's delivery app. It now offers games, consoles, cables and controllers to buy and have delivered and turn up at your door. Reading from the CEX quote, they said, in around 30 minutes, we're delighted to expand the reach of CEX customers to millions of Just Eat customers, making it even faster for them to get their tech treats on demand, said CEX boss David Butler. A list of best-selling items from CX sold via Just Eat include Lightning, HDMI cables, PS5 controllers, and copies of Grand Theft Auto 5, as the quote says. You could also just download the games digitally, but if you're after a second-hand copy, it comes in much cheaper. Just Eat covers 97% of the UK with around 18 million customers. Yeah.
I've just had a look at our local ones there.
I mean, I kind of get it. But
it feels like 20 years too late, but it's not really costing. And when we say sex, that's what they call it, not us. So
it's cash exchange, right? Is what it's
yeah
short for, I think. Yeah, it's just a thing. I hope they have strict rules around like cross contamination, because some of the stuff CX sell. It's got like that gamer gunk on it, like just like the packaging, the cases has just got like, I don't know, you know what I mean? When you pick up like a used pre-owned box and it's like the casing's got some kind of grease on it, or it's just not new. It's definitely it's a second-hand stink that's on a lot of stuff, and then they're going to go put that into their bags on their little motorbikes and stuff and whatever vehicles they got, and then come to your front door and go, "There's your CX delivery." And then the next customer gets their food put in there as well. I hope there's like some delineation between the way they package and deliver these things, but at the end of the day, I don't think Just Eat are necessarily known for their quality or their compliance assurance necessarily. We've had a few problems, I think, recently of just like deliveries and stuff.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
The worst thing I hate about Just Eat is to avoid deliveries being late, they just change the delivery time. On your app, you go, oh, this is the time it's due. Then they'll just change that without anything, and then go, it wasn't late. It's like, yeah, it was. You can't change the
Your driver is on the way
by an hour and expect it and call it not late.
Your driver is on the way, and then you look at the map and he hasn't moved for 20 minutes. You're like, is he on the way though?
We ordered from Pizza before using Just Eat.
Wow. And
we ended up bringing a pizza, and apparently we were told by the manager of our local Pizza Hut that the driver turned up late. So because he turned up late, the pizza was cook a fresh pizza. So they told him it'll be 5 minutes. We're sticking it in the oven. So he just left.
Busy people.
And then Just Eat were like, not our problem.
Yeah, it's
so I don't use them anymore. I just don't. I think they're shit.
Yeah, you're relying on like kind of just like middle employment.
The quality of the company is how they handle problems, and they're pointing the finger at everyone but themselves and take absolutely no responsibility. So fuck them. Yeah,
it's that kind of it's reached that scale, hasn't it? Where because you don't have middle management in place, like the drivers, I guess, in our local town don't have like a manager who oversees them to say like, right, get your shit together, guys, and holds them accountable to that. They just have like, I guess, a profile. It's like a business profile, and do you get star ratings like an Uber driver? But I'm not sure. I'm similar to you. I've started just going to collect it myself or delivering direct from the restaurant or takeaway, because you can trust them, and if something goes wrong, it's their employee you can hold to account. So
I've had loads of problems with Just Eat, so it's not just a one-off instance. It's like pretty much every single time I've used them in the last 6 months, I've had problems. So,
well, now you can order sex from them, so that's something a little bit different at least. And then the prostitution in 2025, ladies and gentlemen. And then the final news story for the week is just in reference to The Last of Us HBO show. It airs pretty much a month from today, Richie. Less than 4 weeks, and we'll have the first episode of season 2 in our eyeballs. It hasn't begun airing yet, however, they did drop a trailer this week, and it's breaking all sorts of records. Via Deadline, the report says that the recent trailer clocked up more than 158 global views across all platforms in its first 3 days. This breaks all records for HBO and HBO Max originals, of course, including things like Game of Thrones and House of Dragon. The last trailer also outperformed previous teaser trailers by a margin of at least 160%, showing that interest in Season 2 is seemingly reaching fever pitch ahead of the new cast and the old cast returning for this 7-episode arc of Season 2. And I want to get that in there, I guess, to shout out the Clicker cast for you and me, because we'll be covering it every week on the show. And for those who are interested in The Last of Us or the show, who didn't check out season 1 or are maybe about to catch up, myself and Richie, we've remastered season 1. It's available now on the YouTube channel. But if you don't like listening to YouTube necessarily, you dirty freeloaders out there, mention you again, we've put all the original episodes of the first series up on podcast services as well for a limited time. So if you actually go to Spotify, go to whatever podcast platform you use and search for the Clickercast, you should be able to find it there. All 9 episodes are up available now. You're talking probably just short of 20 hours worth of content there, Richie. I think every episode we went for about 1 hour 40 on breaking it down. So that's all. Put it in your ear holes, listen to it, catch up ahead of season 2 kicking off. Well, we'll be covering every week here on the channel. I'm excited for it. We're a month out, Richie. Where's your anticipation at now? Is it with the 158 million people who watched the trailer? You're on mute. You're still on mute.
No, I'm not. I haven't actually seen. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the trailer, but I am excited. I do need to start. It's getting close to the time to start the rewatch of season 1.
Yeah, 9 episodes to get through, and I guess we should also point out we're currently playing through the part 2 of the game still on the channel. So every Thursday we've been jumping in. I want to say we're probably about 3/4 of the way through now. I'm at that stage. Obviously, you didn't join me the last 2 weeks, Richie. So to keep you in the loop as well, I'm up to the point where you're with Abby and Lev, and we're going across the sky bridges. So we're quite deep into the kind of Seattle arch. Although I was saying to my wife afterwards, I was like, I'm pretty sure there's quite a chunk to go still, because you end up flipping back to Ellie, and then there's a whole part not in Seattle that we have to get to, and we have to return and see how other characters. There's a whole chunk yet, so we're out of time.
I keep telling that this. I think the game is bigger than people remember.
I've played it a few times because I got the original platinum and then the remaster platinum. And
because we've done, now 4 episodes? Is this
6?
6.
Yeah.
So it's 6 streams. Okay, yeah. So we should be getting close to the end.
Which is, again, where I'm at, from what I know off the top of my head, I'm like, there's still quite a chunk to go, but it might be really condensed from, and my memory might just be a little bit warped by it. But we'll get into that. We'll tune in. There won't be a Last of Us stream this week, as I mentioned, because we've got Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out. And Richie, you're going to go back and check out maybe something retro style. It's been a while.
I am. I've decided what I'm going to play.
Cool.
So I put a poll in Discord, I put a poll on the YouTube channel as well, actually. And I've settled on Pokemon Blue.
Ooh, classic. Nice, I like it.
So I'm probably going to run it as an ongoing series, similar to The Legend of Zelda, where occasionally when you're away and there's nothing we want to showcase, I will jump in and stream the next episode. Nice. So give me about 2 years to finish the game.
And the rest. A little bit longer than The Last of Us is Pokemon Blue. But look forward to that one on the channel. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of that type of content. Otherwise, you will miss out. You will miss out, unfortunately. But yes, thank you to everyone who's tuned in for this week's show. Don't forget to go and explore the rest of our great content. That's been it for this week. But we round out every show, Richie, as I've just remembered by looking at this day in video game history. We're recording on March 14th. Anything stand out for you this day?
Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Oh, if only it was blue. That would have been like perfect synergy and timing.
Perfect, yeah.
Let's have a look. What have we got for me? Need for Speed Underground Rivals, 20 years ago. That's the PSP release. That's why I remember that one. Shout out to Daxter on the PSP as well. 2006, that was 19 years ago. And I only want to shout that out because I got the platinum for it last autumn. We got a year ago today, we got the Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection, which is the shit show remaster release that came out with so many bugs it annoyed everybody. If you remember that, as if that was a year ago already. Yeah. PlayStation 2, 24 years ago, landed the first ever Pro Evolution Soccer. How that one's fallen from grace, right? Remember that when that actively competed with FIFA?
Yeah, there was a point where it was just... Some people actually claim, I think Pro Evo was meant to be the better game, but EA had the licensing.
Yeah, it's always how it went. I think that's about it. Even just skipping ahead a couple of days. 10 years ago, Battlefield Hardline. That was one of the popular entries in the series. I think Hardline was one of the ones when, remember when 2042 came out? People were saying that people were playing Battlefield 1 and Hardline, more concurrent players than due release. Yeah. So it's clearly standing the test of time a little bit, in and amongst other things. But a couple of good releases this time, but nothing great and amazingly stand out. But that does bring an end to this week's episode of the GamerGuild Podcast, episode 83, and if you count, episode 454 in total here on the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.